Welcome to the newest show here on KFAR. We like to call it Patriot's Lament. And for the next hour, we're going to be talking about liberty, about what it is that we actually have here in America, how, in fact, we can restore liberty on an individual level, and what it means when government tries to protect us, among other options. Whatever's on your mind is fair game as well. Joining me in the studio, we've got Josh Bennett from Bighorn Enterprises. We've got Aaron Bennett from Far North Tactical, and we've got Dave Giesel from the Southern Poverty Law Center. No.
Yeah,
that would be a likely discussion. No, Dave, who do you represent today?
Campaign for Liberty.
Campaign for Liberty. All right, I'm going to have to write that down because I'm always forgetting the Campaign for Liberty. Gentlemen, thank you for being here once again. Is there something directly on your mind that you want to bring up this morning?
Yeah, what does Campaign for Liberty mean?
Campaign
I want an explanation.
Okay. That was basically after the 2008 election, Ron Paul rolled all his money into a kind of an activist group that goes out and pursues specific ballot initiatives and things like that. So the main thing Campaign for Liberty was doing the last 2-3 years is pushing the the Federal Reserve bills. And then there were a few other bills. There were some hemp legalization bills and a couple things like that they were working on. And also working to educate people. So up here we have a book group that meets every 2 weeks, where we read some book on politics or economics or liberty in general, and then we get together and discuss that. So,
it's a campaign. So basically, you're campaigning not necessarily politically, but for the hearts and minds of the public at large.
Right. Yeah. Campaign for Liberty doesn't support any candidates per se, so it's more about education and kind of changing the public's opinion. Because the candidates, political candidates capitulate. That's what they do. So they capitulate to what they think the majority of people want. So if you really want to, change a society, you have to change the way that the people in that society think. You can't do it by electing people who think the same as you and forcing it from the top down. It never works that way. Which also is sort of interesting, because then when you consider the way that America looks today, you kind of realize that didn't happen because of these, politicians or judges. It happened because of the population.
So you're not supporting Mitt Romney?
Yeah. That's another thing Tom Woods talks about. The Campaign for Liberty, of course, supported and advocates all these liberty issues, I guess, in general. And Tom Woods always says that Campaign for Liberty and Ron Paul are clearly lunatics, because they disagree with both Mitt Romney and Hillary Clinton at the same time, and so they must be whack jobs.
I've noticed that he's been getting Ron Paul pretty much getting trashed from both sides right now. That he is a lunatic. Even Glenn Beck, even though he has to admit that, well, he's the most constitutional representative we have and knows it inside and out and blah, 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 but he's a nut job. So,
yeah, he doesn't fall in that spectrum between, Hillary Clinton and Mitt Romney. So,
exactly.
He doesn't favor, he doesn't want the state to control all of our lives or 99% of our lives, which is the difference between a liberal and a conservative.
What kills me, Dave, and maybe you can straighten me out on this too, is that why it is that we, those of us who do believe in liberty, who do believe in more, you might want to call us conservative thinkers in a certain degree, but even that, I don't like the label. The whole aspect of, can I think for myself, or am I required to toe the party line? It really disturbs me that people want to continually put other people in boxes politically, but the choice that we have of the right or the left is such a false choice to begin with.
Well, even beyond that, I think that politics is a false choice. Politics, any political action that's taken is forcing people to do something they wouldn't do otherwise, right? by definition. Otherwise,
right, exactly.
Because otherwise they'd already be doing it. So you wouldn't need, quote unquote, need X or Y law or policy. And so the idea that you can have a peaceful society through politics is logically impossible, because politics itself, by its own nature, engenders conflict. So, and then you have, obviously the fact that the left and right are the same thing.
Well, and it all comes from the French Parliament back in the, what was it, after Napoleon?
Yeah,
the French
ceded
Republic. I mean, the whole point of that right and the left was where they sat, but on the one side you had the socialists, and the other side you had the communists. I mean, basically, to me, it's the same political situation. Like you're saying, is the government going to control 100% of your life or 99%?
Right.
I don't think anarchists ever really get a good rap when it comes to.
Well, that's actually interesting. Anarchy itself, we all live in anarchy. I hate to scare all the listeners out there, but the state of existence of the universe is anarchy. All of us, any of us, can do whatever we want at any time, right? Laws don't keep people from murdering each other. Laws don't keep people from speeding. They just impose a penalty. So that's just sort of the state of nature. And of course, there's consequences for your actions, even among the animal kingdom, where there's no civil law, right? If a small animal attacks a bigger animal, it gets killed. There's consequences for its actions. So we already are living in anarchy, and what libertarians advocate is, the more congruent your system of law and commerce is with the state of nature, the more efficiently and the more peacefully it will operate. When you try and swim upstream, it's a lot more difficult than swimming downstream.
What about those who say that goes against God's law, David?
Yeah, you're a devil worshiper.
Well, that's interesting too, because if you go back to the Israelites, right, and you have Abraham. The big revolution of Abraham was that he proposed that man determines his own fate, right? Abraham was the first guy to say that these other gods that were in Mesopotamia were false gods, and there was only one God, and it wasn't a man, right? God was not man, and God was not manifested in man. And the only legal system that the Israelites had was the judges, right? There were no police, there was no king, there was no president. It was just judges, and that was the system of law enforcement. You'd be kicked out of the tribe, if the judges ruled against you. And so, that though requires the populace at large to respect and obey what the judges say, doesn't it? Right, exactly. But they did this using social norms and social pressure. They did not have, a police state or anything like that. And so that was the big revolution, in fact, was that, Abraham told these people, basically you're free. You're not bound by all these false gods. You're free, and you can follow the one true God, or you cannot. And so it's interesting today with the state. If you challenge the state or question its authority, you get labeled as anti-religious or whatever. But in fact, most of the people who believe in the state, it's actually become their god.
Well, and if you look too on that very same issue, if the state steps in to punish you for something that you've done to somebody else, what does the victim get out of it? Does the victim get restitution for what you've stolen, or does the family get the satisfaction of judgment against you? No, the state gets paid.
Yeah, and in fact, the family usually has little recourse over how the case goes. So if you have a Mennonite or something like that who doesn't believe in the death penalty, and the state prosecutes someone for murder of one of their family members and sentences them to death, then the family is wronged twice. So.
Well, I mean, one of these great examples that Aaron has brought up is that guy that went around slashing tires there a little while ago. You want to talk about that for a second?
Everybody always says that we're promoting anarchy, we're promoting government lawlessness, but history says that the same rules that bind every individual, the same common laws that all of us have to follow, when a mob comes together, those rules don't apply. So anytime that you form government, anytime that you have a mob of people imposing their wills on other people, the same common laws that apply to the individuals don't apply to them. That's how you end up with Mao and Stalin and Hitler. People die under those form of governments, so which one's really anarchy? Which one's really chaos? The individual left to himself follows a set of rules that everybody since the beginning of time have followed, but government doesn't follow those same rules because a group of people is above common law.
Well, they may think they are, but in fact, they would be held accountable if they could individually be caught, right?
Well, we look right now. We have a government that has no rule of law. I mean, they don't follow any law. They make it up as they go. If they don't like it, they break it and change it.
Well, 6 million Jews died under Hitler's reign, and the significance of the Nuremberg trial was, in fact, that the judges there decided that even though government had told all those individuals to murder the Jews, and that was their defense as we were carrying out our orders, we were doing what we were told, the judges said, no, there's a higher law than government, and you guys committed murder. And they sentenced those guys at the Nuremberg trials to death. The big significance there is the fact that they were saying, and this isn't taught to anybody in schools or anything, but the Nuremberg trials set apart that there is a higher law than government.
I thought government was law.
Well, I tell you, some of it just absolutely blows my mind to think about how we are willing as individuals to surrender not only our rights but our responsibilities as citizens to this really non-existent beast of the collective. You know, we see it happening all the time. But we are at the point right now to take our first break to tell you about our sponsors. And right now I will tell you about one of our primary sponsors is Bighorn Enterprises. You know, one of the things that, they say is for all your trucking and construction needs, call 451-7310. Well, what does that mean? It means you need dirt work, they're the ones to call. You need something built, you call them as well. Right now, an awful lot of what they do is contract work, and you can see it over there on the bases. You can see the fact that here's a person who, through his company, actually fulfills his contract to the point where people come back and say, hey, I want you to do this again. And you look at the difference between that and where you may go and you call somebody and you don't like the work you get done. What do? You have any recourse? Well, basically you don't hire them again, right? I mean, that's the bottom line, is if you're not happy with what you see after the work is done, you don't hire them again. The very fact that Bighorn Enterprises is as busy as they are speaks to the fact that they do honor their contracts and that they do such a good job at completing the work that people want them back. So I'm not sure if they can get you in anytime soon, but you might want to put this number on a Rolodex or in a phone or someplace so you can give them a call. At the very least, thank them for sponsoring the program. Bighorn Enterprises, 451-7310, a proud sponsor of Problem Corner as well during the week, and the American Minute on the Better Breakfast Show. Thank you very much, Josh, for being a sponsor of Patriot's Lament. That being said,